Welcome back, Red Spotters! Another show of the Red Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host, Alexis, joined by Peter Martinez, the show that brings you all of the latest stories coming out of the world of movies and more. And of course, what it is we have this week, Warner Brothers apparently has died and then born again, as per usual. The new head chief in charge, David Zaslav, is ushering in a new era that can only be interpreted as quite frightening. We'll get into all of that and more, as well as all the canceled projects. Of course, we also have, I believe, a discussion on two trailers that quite caught my attention. I know we don't discuss trailers much anymore, but we got Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, as well as the new trailer for Andor, the Disney Plus series, and of course what that would entail. And of course our big review of the week is finally, at long last, and I feel so bad for Mr. Jordan Peele, because I feel like with all of... no one's talking about his movie anymore, considering like all the news that's happening, you know, whether it be with Warner Brothers or even after Comic-Con and Marvel. So we are going to give Mr. Peele his due at the end of this podcast, talking about his latest film, Nope. All that here and more on Red Spotlight number 410. Okay, first of all, do you have anything, Peter? I suspect perhaps not, but just to quickly bring back what we saw this week, and to give you some time to think of anything that you could present for what we saw this week, I do want to say, and to an extent maybe you yourself did, because I shared some clips with you, but the third season, and honestly, in all likelihood, maybe the final season, of Harley Quinn debuted on HBO Max last week, its first 3 episodes. And good news, the show is as hilarious and as entertaining and as brilliant as it ever was. I'm curious to see where this season goes, with Ivy and Harley now officially a couple, and of course they're really getting their mileage out of that. And holy crap, it's honestly, this world is just so much fun to live in. I honestly cannot recommend the show enough for those of you who haven't like gone out of their way to go see it. To me, Harley Quinn is right up there with Peacemaker and the Batman, I would also say, and the Suicide Squad as the best DC projects we've received in over the last 10 years. To me, that's A+ premium storytelling. The writing is just next world, and their depictions of these characters, by the way, characters who have had many portrayals in so many different projects at this point, but to see for more, honestly, and I think Grace Randolph has also discussed it as this, it could be seen as somewhat of a spiritual successor or continuation of the same universe as Batman the Animated Universe, just more adult, because it's just a lot of the same characters. I don't think Alan Tudyk gets enough credit for his performance as Joker. He's really, really good when he's around. And of course, you know, Clayface and King Shark. The comedy is what we're here for, and I loved it. And man, the clips I sent over in your direction, there was this one, the first clip I sent over was just of like pandemonium, like this freaking Gordon. By the way, Commissioner Gordon, this is my favorite Gordon probably. He's such a buffoon, but he threw something out the window that somehow like ricocheted. It caused a lot of like downtown destruction, which ended up coming back to the same office and murdering the mayor. Not murdering, but just killing the mayor. And I mean, they even went there with Batman and Catwoman with one particular moment. And then, of course, I say all this as Peter has seen these clips. Of course, I shared with him. And my favorite, though, and as I told David in the last episode, to me, that episode 3 is one of my favorite episodes of the whole series. It's basically an award show, the Villies, for the
now, I wonder why you would enjoy that.
It's so good. It's so good. But of course, the clip that I shared with you was with Catwoman getting a particular award and then going off on this tangent, like chewing out the audience for like acknowledging a black villain. And even like saying Black Manta's been out here, you know, for years, and where is his award? And I think one of the biggest laughs I've had in a long time was cutting to Joker, who of course was the host. In the episode, by the way, the Joker opens the ceremony with a musical performance, so make sure you keep out for that. Very Neil Patrick Harris-y. Remember that one year he opened the Oscars. You cut to Joker in the backstage, just looking at Black Manta and completely just flabbergasted, and then just like saying he's black, and just I love this show so much. I honestly do. So that's what I've been watching, Harley Quinn. Real quick, I've also saw for the first time in maybe 15 years. I was with Kyle, and he has his home theater set up, and we watched Lindsay Lohan's The Parent Trap.
Good Lord.
It's been a long time since I was very moved. It was a really good movie.
Of course, he's there alone watching The Parent Trap.
Right. Well, he put that on after he was watching Hook, Steven Spielberg's Hook. This is classic Kyle, right? And then, of course, the night was teed off by him showing me for the first time the 2011 Winnie the Pooh movie.
What a night.
What a night. I also did see Winnie the Pooh for the first time, as I just mentioned, and it was really funny. It was a really good Pooh movie. That's the last 2D film Disney ever made.
Yeah. Because... like the great David Zaslav once said, fuck art. Yeah.
Anything you've been watching this week?
Technically, yeah. I have been watching What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes. Are they in their new season right now?
Is it 4?
I thought it was 5.
Oh my god.
No, I mean, maybe it could be 4. I'm not sure.
I think it's 4. It's great. It's very, very funny. Are you at all caught up on the show?
No, I need to catch up on it. Okay. It's been sitting on Hulu for weeks now, and I need to get
How far behind are you?
I've only seen 3 episodes, I think.
Of the whole series?
Yes.
Oh, yes. You stupid bitch. Okay, yeah, I can't talk anything about it then. Because then all of season 4 is a spoiler. But suffice to say, it's...
Have you caught up with the last 2 seasons of Curb?
Yes. Spiritually.
Have you what?
Spiritually, yes.
Okay. What does that mean, spiritually?
It means what it means, okay?
No. Have you seen seasons 10 and 11?
Listen, I would like to get to it. I don't know if there's going to be an app for me to watch them anytime soon.
There would be. So... It's on HBO Max. I mean, we just got the confirmation it's going to exist for at least one more year.
That dinosaur?
So. Yes, that dinosaur.
That obsolete streaming service?
You know what's hilarious? Some of the posters that I have on this room are films that came out of WB in 2021, and like the Doom poster that I have, the Doom poster says see it in theaters and on HBO Max. So I have a time capsule in my room.
Also, I've been watching, and motherfucker, if they cancel it, god damn it.
What?
Nathan Fielder's The Rehearsal.
They canceled it?
No, I'm saying if they cancel it, I'm gonna be pissed because it's an HBO Max exclusive.
Right. Oh.
Yes, but I have been watching that. Yes. Do you know anything about Nathan Fielder?
I feel like I know who you're talking about. Like, can you show me? Let me Google a picture because I think I know this guy pretty well.
I'm pretty sure I've recommended Nathan for you before. His old show on
yeah, I think I know
Comedy Central. It is one of the funniest shows.
Yeah, Fielder. Yeah,
ever made. Every time you think it can't be that ridiculous, it more than tops itself. So Nathan for You is great. That's the old show, and The Rehearsal is almost like a extension to a certain degree of that, of sort of peeling back the ridiculousness of people by going as ridiculous as possible. Yeah, it's hard to describe. You would have to see it. But yeah, I've been watching that as well. And both are releasing like week to week. So it's just, I just kind of turned out that way. And I think that's it.
Okay. Well, with that, let's go ahead and, a couple of more things before we get into the big news of it. So, a couple of trailers, right? Pinocchio.
Oh, yes.
Let me tell you something. This Pinocchio trailer, I think, is my favorite of the year so far.
Favorite Pinocchio trailer or favorite trailer?
I love how you said you wanted to clarify that. Well, both. The answer is yes to both.
The answer is yes.
Yes, the answer is yes. No, there's everything about it, from the obviously Ewan McGregor is doing the narration, and then you have the stop motion animation, the visuals, the music was pitch perfect. I was just entranced with the trailer from beginning to end. And honestly, this is like one of the few trailers that I actually like went back and rewatched several times over because I was that moved by it. You can sense a palpable emotion in it that is just, I don't think anything else I've seen this year can touch just the absolute warmth that you get off of this.
See, you say that, but like there was no cinematic tease at the end of the trailer. There's no currently scheduled spin-offs. How can I possibly care for this movie?
And how could you care, even considering there's another Pinocchio movie coming out at the same time by the people who actually made Pinocchio a household name?
The superior filmmakers.
Yeah,
over at Live Action Disney.
Let me say this. No, look. The stop motion animation is so good, and you can look. It's like that's a Guillermo del Toro film. If there ever was one, like this, I think this might be for him what Hugo was for Martin Scorsese. It looks that fucking good, and honestly, I appreciate the film embrace. I was honestly, again, because Disney has done a relatively good job of like glossing over a lot of the dark details of like their fairy tales. What is Del Toro known for? His fairy tales. And here he is bringing the fairy tale back to a truer sense of what it was in the first place. And so one of the details I had forgotten completely was that Geppetto makes Pinocchio himself out of the loss of his son. And that just threw me, and I'm like, wow, the emotion in that one moment in this trailer, like, I loved it, and I want to be clear. I also happen to really love the Disney animated Pinocchio. I think it's a great movie. I mean, it defined a generation, if anything. I also appreciate that Disney Pinocchio because that's one of the few, I would say, Disney fairy tale adaptations that wasn't afraid to go dark in some areas. In fact, they may have overcompensated. Yeah, literally. So I think Pinocchio is always going to be a classic. And I've long since felt that any live action remake post 2012 is kind of doomed for the scrap heap, including this one that'll come out in September. That's before I even saw the trailer. So I forgot entirely there was a trailer for the Disney live action Pinocchio, so I watched that after watching the Del Toro one. And the differences couldn't be more stark. You couldn't ask for a trailer more devoid of life, more devoid of soul, originality, creativity. It is just complacency and laziness and the exact same shit just repackaged just because. What an inferior, hollow husk of a movie. Personally, I can't wait for the Del Toro film to come out. That way we'll never talk about the live action remake. And we don't even need one, honestly, because no one will talk about that one after the week it comes out on Disney Plus. So that's all that's worth. And I think this Del Toro adaptation may be that good. It could even supersede the Disney animated film as being the definitive version of this story. I love it. I love Del Toro. I need this now. Peter.
It looks so good. No one does genuine magic like Del Toro.
No.
He's just got that cornered. I love the stop motion. I love everything about it. I'm really excited. Yeah.
Isn't it? It's been a while since we had like two Del Toro films like that close to each other, right? Like basically we had one last year and then we have another one this year.
Yeah, I think it has mostly to do with like stop motion takes such a long fucking time.
Yeah, we've known about this for years now.
Yeah. It takes like 5 years with fucking stop motion. So he started this a long time ago, and then it just so happens to come out at the time another one's coming out. Yeah.
No, basically basically that's what it is. So that was Pinocchio. Real quick.
Oh wait, hold on.
Yes.
I just read an article. Turns out Netflix is scrapping the Pinocchio film. It has been canceled completely. It is not releasing anywhere. They are getting a tax write-off by doing so. So just scratch everything we said about the trailer. Sorry.
I think you're mistaken, Peter. We're talking about Netflix, not Warner Brothers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Steven Spielberg's next film, The Fabelmans, apparently tested very well recently, and it will hold its premiere, the world premiere of the film, at Toronto Film Festival, or TIFF for short. This is the first appearance Spielberg has made at TIFF, and he's debuting this movie, so... and the world premiere is scheduled for September, and it will hit theaters November the 11th. I still don't know what studio is releasing this, so we'll unless maybe I don't know. There's that. Now let's get to something real quick. I also want to squash right now. I had here in my notes. Again, we don't want to get too much into rumors, especially with Marvel, and we don't talk about Marvel all that much, but I feel particularly confident that these new rumors circling around that Jon Bernthal's Punisher is coming back, like his show is coming back on Disney Plus and it will be rated TVMA. I find that very hard to believe, and I want to comment on that because I've been seeing it, being circulated at so many other places. So, like that, there's just no way that's happening. And if it does happen, I would just be so completely shocked.
Me as well.
So there is that. Now, let's get into Andor. Now, speaking of shocking stuff lately, look, it's been a week of shocks. Let's just be real about that. So, Lucasfilm's Andor series is going to have 12 episodes. They're going to drop the first 3 on its first night sometime in September. I forgot the exact date exactly, but the trailer came out, and I was just completely startled. Just completely startled because this is where all the money went. And it's like, it increases the episode count of the other shows. You have 12 episodes here, and it's about Cassian Andor, and this is where the money went? This looks like a movie.
Oh, yeah, it's genuinely shocking to me how...
What a week, right?
like, expensive it looks. How, like, good it looks.
It's like, this is on Disney Plus, really?
And it's 12 episodes... and it's like the whole 9 yards for this. I guess it would somewhat make sense as Rogue One is a bit of a fan favorite. But you know who else is a fan favorite? Obi-Wan Kenobi. So...
Obi-Wan's been a character since the beginning of this franchise.
Yeah.
He's been a fan favorite the entire time.
It feels like I don't... I guess it really just is, because this is what it seems like to me.
Mm-hmm.
The showrunner or director, or what's his name? Tony
Gilroy. Yes. By the way, to be clear, Tony Gilroy was not the original filmmaker of Rogue One. He was brought in to basically, in all intents and purposes, replace Gareth Edwards as director and like reshoot that movie and recut it, basically.
Yeah. He's like, no, I am not using the volume. We are going on sets. We are going out into the woods. We are building shit. Like, that's how we're gonna do things. And boy, oh boy, does it show. I don't know, just visually, it looks... Sorry, my cat attacked me. It looks... to use no better word, I guess, epic in
cinematic.
Its scale. Cinematic.
Just to quote some tweets while you're having the fight of your life with your cat. Lance Laurent says, I really question Lucasfilm's allocation of resources when the show about Cassian Andor, a character who no one cares about, looks far more expansive in scope and stylistically appealing than their show about Obi-Wan, which looked like chintzy TV.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah.
Even the poster looked good.
You did.
What's going on?
Well, I'll say this, right? I don't hate Rogue One.
No.
It's definitely, to me, it's not classic Star Wars. And even this show, to me, doesn't scream classic Star Wars.
No, but it's a different vibe.
That's okay, right? Like, I'm okay with different vibe. If anything, I fucking welcome it. As long as it's good. But I guess what I hadn't stopped to consider, but the only reason I hadn't stopped is because I didn't care to begin with, is that I also think I didn't expect them to put this much effort into the show to begin with.
No.
But it's that Tony Gilroy did a really good job of fixing that movie.
It seems that way, yeah.
That entire third act, like I say, fantastic action film. Like, just really, really good. And if this is his from the beginning, you know, story and all and everything, maybe there's something there. You know, it's not him having to come in and fix a production. It's him coming in and making his own thing. I mean, I'm already impressed that he was able to convince them to go outside and shoot some stuff.
It seemed with Gilroy, from the impression I get, is that he had a lot more pull because Rogue One was so successful and because he's, I guess, a more established filmmaker. Mm-hmm. And so
who'd have thunk?
And right, my impression
yeah.
My impression is he pulled his weight and said, like, we're doing this outside or we're not doing this at all.
Mm-hmm.
And look how much better things look when you go outside. And I love how he basically flaunted in the interviews, we didn't use stagecraft at all. We didn't do it at all. And yet the visuals that were on display in this trailer are on par with the Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
The locations themselves as well.
And like there's 12 episodes, right? And it feels more like, I mean, it's hard to tell with the trailer, but it feels more like it's going for like television.
Yes.
Like there's like
there's already a second season in production.
There's an espionage element to it where you have these politicians that are in high places, a little bit of Game of Thrones-ish political back and forth with them, and then while you have like the sort of spies that are working behind the scenes, trying to get this rebellion going. So it seems like they're treating it seriously, I guess. Like it kind of feels like they had an idea for a show of like a political uprising type show.
Right.
And then they kind of laid over Star Wars on top of it.
Yeah.
Which is cool. That could be something, right? Like that could be really, really good. Especially, and again, because Tony Gilroy has established, you actually treat it like television and not a 2-hour movie stretched out over and cut up in a
that also makes
ways.
A world of difference. I feel you're right about that.
Yeah.
And it also does scratch a particular itch because this is only something that the Star Wars Rebels animated show lightly touched on, but didn't really get into that the actual rebellion and the politics of the Game of Thrones styleness of it. They only were focusing on, of course, their group of characters and how they related to the rebellion.
They had to rescue crates every episode.
And then also steal ships.
And steal ships, yeah.
Yeah, don't sell them short. They also stole ships. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to... I cannot believe I'm saying this. And I think I may have hit my head. I would have told you that I would have hit my head if 2 weeks ago I knew that I would be praising Black Panther and Andor and be looking forward to them as projects.
Those are the two where it's like previously everyone praised, and me and you were like, I don't know, guys. There's not, it's just not for me. But then I don't know. Then I see these projects and it's like, you're pulling me in. I didn't expect anything, and now it's like, wow, like both trailers were very, very good. I think very good.
Considering how dirt low the expectations were, they were exceptional.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think you and I may have been the only ones that had no expectations. I mean, to me, I still question the excitement for Andor as a character, really. I mean, I know Diego Luna, I like him, but like, really, did anybody want more of him? Okay.
It's not like, oh, yes, Diego Luna in his character, finally, right? But it's, there were other elements like Skarsgård. And
he was so good. I love Skarsgård anytime he pops up in anything, but he was so good in this trailer.
And he looks like he's playing like this political two-timer.
Yes.
And like...
double agent, if it were.
Yes, it looks like there's going to be like Senate backroom deals.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, let me see that shit, you know? Like, we will be allocating resources to... Gideon.
You also had some interesting actors. I love how sometimes they cast as Imperials. Do you remember the actor that played Qyburn? What was it? Queen Cersei's right? The hand of the Queen. Mm-hmm. He's one of the Imperials here that we see briefly.
I saw that. Yeah.
He's a great pick as an Imperial officer. Also, another aspect of this show. Evidently, in the scripting developmental process, every 3 episodes is supposed to... be like a standalone story arc. So think of the Clone Wars.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Okay.
But I mean, it all builds to something. It's not as if like they're isolated things. Like anthologies are like Clone Wars was. It's all building to something at the end. So
like maybe
that makes it more interesting.
The first 3 episodes you're following Cassian, right?
Yeah, that's where they're dropping the first 3 at once.
Yeah, maybe that's entirely Cassian. And then what's his name? Skarsgård. Of course, he's part of it, but you're mostly following Cassian.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next 3, maybe you're mostly following Skarsgård.
Right.
Right. And then now it's sort of like, okay, now we're seeing more of what's going on. A little bit a la, maybe not exactly, but The Last Duel.
Yes.
Maybe a little bit like that. That would be pretty cool.
Great film. Go watch it.
Mm-hmm. But that's a good idea for like a structure for like a television series, I think.
Yeah, it's actually a TV show. Not a fucking movie chopped up into 6 parts.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see that at the very least they're not mandating this for every single Disney Plus series. And they have, but I would also say I don't think this would be happening if we had a newcomer like Marvel gets. This is why I'm so against Marvel Studios picking like newcomers. Why they pick them in the first place is because they don't want a Tony Gilroy to basically push back.
Yeah, they don't want someone coming in and going like, no, like that's not how we're gonna do. They want a yes man who's gonna come in and be like, hey, you're gonna do this, and they're like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll make it work and da 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 da.
The exception was like Chloe Zhao, where she was like, no, we're filming outside.
Yeah, she came in and waved her dick around. And they were like, outside.
Well, she did win Best Picture and Best Director, so I guess she could.
I mean, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, color me surprised.
Also, another added piece that I feel makes all of this much more sense, that gets, I would wager, would get us here at Red Spotlight very excited. Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are nowhere at all involved in anything in the show. Boy, does it show.
Oh, thank God. Because I already know if they were, like, every week, people are going to be like, is Ahsoka going to show up? Or is the Rebels crew going to show up? And they would. They would show up.
They would. There would be no question. I don't think they are going to show up now, because there's no reason for them to show up. But, like, if Favreau was in charge, they'd be showing up on the regular.
They'd show up. Everyone, fucking everyone would show up. Ridiculous.
Maybe even Darth Vader would come back in here.
Oh, for sure, reason. Darth Vader would show up. And here it's like, no. It's. They put the war in Star Wars. I'll put it that way.
Yes.
And it's like,
focusing
okay,
on these, yeah.
That's a nice twist on it. That's great. Okay, it looks like it's being executed well.
Yeah. I think to me, this best case scenario, this is what Rogue One should have been.
Yeah. If they had gotten a good script in time.
Yeah, and it wasn't bogged down by the need for it to still feel like a Star Wars film.
Yeah, because like, and I know, oh god, people are gonna be like, no, this is Star Wars, and it's like, it's not. Like, this is as far away, I think, from Star Wars as it gets, but it also looks good. So it's like, okay,
Yes.
that's all right. Let's do this. Let's do something a little different. But yeah, I don't know. I'm into it. We'll see. I've had the rug pulled before.
Fingers crossed. Okay, so the big story of this week happens to come in the form of the Batgirl film that was originally set for HBO Max that starred Leslie Grace from In the Heights and was brought to you by the same team. I believe also Brendan Fraser was supposed to be in the film as the villain.
The villain, yes.
Also, the Miss Marvel writers and directors were basically making this movie. So there was actual talent involved, and the budget from Michael Keaton as well. Man, I feel bad for him. Look, there was, I believe it was a $70 to $90 million budget, and the film has been canceled unceremoniously at that. It's not going to have a theatrical play, and it's not going to go on HBO Max. And the point of all of this is so that David Zaslav, the new chief of the newly merged Warner Brothers Discovery Company, can basically get a tax write-off and make more money off that way than lose money by throwing more money at it. I'm going to make a couple of clarifications. This story is much larger than just Batgirl, although that in and of itself is saddening. But I do want to begin with, I want to say, an area of concentration that most have not even bothered to mention when discussing this topic. Or the story, shall we say, not topic. Mergers are bad. And I feel they're bad for a multitude of reasons. And if you've been listening to this show for a long period of time, you should know that Peter and I are anti the merging of these huge conglomerates because ultimately they result, I think maybe the most important thing we can get out of all this right now that people don't even care to mention is the hundreds of people who are going to lose their jobs, who are going to lose their livelihoods. This happens every single time there is a merger, and yet somehow people act surprised when it happens. It happened when Fox was absorbed, quite frankly, by Disney, and I think something like 60 to 70% of their workforce was laid off, and of course the executives themselves were like ushered out of the entire system. Well, I think we should start this with saying that at the moment, and just with HBO Max, because of course we all know how many people lost their jobs over the whole CNN Plus debacle. Jason Kilar left, and then when Zaslav had actual ownership, not 2 weeks into CNN Plus's entire launch, it was canceled completely, and people just lost their jobs. It was hilarious, yes, because I think
fair,
CNN,
that was a stupid idea, and it bombed hard.
It was a stupid idea. Yes, it bombed hard, and I have no sympathy for journalists who are basically actors being, told to say certain things that, prop up the ruling class and the corporate agenda and the status quo. So my sympathy only goes so far when it comes to them, and they're still rich. Anyway, well, not the people in front of the camera are rich. Anyway, 70% of the workforce of HBO Max is expected to be laid off at any moment. That's kind of an important aspect of the story that I feel many people either gloss over or just accept, well, it's showbiz, babe. And granted, while yes, that's how the industry works, it doesn't mean that we should just be okay with that, This happens every single time there is a merger, and every single time, with the Fox Disney stuff, and even with the Warner Brothers Discovery. What do movie fans and comic book fans more so, what do they gravitate toward? All they care about, and they salivate about, what it could mean for their characters and what projects. And sure, that's fun to speculate about, but no one ever seems to be all that concerned about the people who actually work in this business, who work at that company, whose entire livelihoods. And we're talking about just industry people, right? To say nothing of the fact that Leslie Grace, Michael Keaton, Brendan Fraser, and the directors and writers just lost a movie that was close to completion.
Yeah, I don't know if you stated that. The movie was done. That's what makes it. It's not the fact that this movie was canceled. It was the fact that it was shot. It was scripted. It was shot. It was done.
Projects get canceled all the time while they're in development, maybe even if they shoot a couple of things here and there, but rarely do they ever. I don't think I can think of any other instance where a project is just completed and they just say, we're not releasing this at all.
Anyway.
Not even on streaming, because that would be the safe thing to do, just dump it on streaming and recoup something.
Yeah, not even a straight to DVD bin somewhere. Like, just, like, it's going into a vault and it will never see the light of day.
And they are going to lose $90 million at least.
Well, apparently they're going to recoup a lot of it.
With tax write-offs.
Yeah.
We should also note that it wasn't just Batgirl, but also a couple of other projects, including the Scoob sequel, the animated sequel, and then they even also went so far as to delete 6 HBO Original Max movies off the service, so that they can claim they weren't doing much, and then also get tax write-offs off of those. Films, by the way, who I don't believe ever had physical media releases. So those movies are just gone.
Yeah. They're gone. That's insane.
So it should be pretty clear. This Zaslav guy is fucking cutthroat in a way this industry isn't used to. This just isn't done.
Yeah.
Even if the movie is bad, they still release it because they have to.
And
but
also,
now,
it's also about keeping relationships, right?
Exactly. The business ties with the people who make your movies. If you piss them off royally, that's why Jason Kilar was so stupid, I would say, for saying that all of its 2021 movies would be on HBO Max without even notifying the creatives who were behind all those films. He would just dump on streaming.
And then beyond that, this guy, Zaslav, takes it up a notch by going, we're not even dumping it to streaming. It's just...
You get no movie.
We're hitting Control-Alt-Delete.
They filmed the whole movie, and now, we're going to just put it away.
7 months. What the star?
Leslie Grace.
She said they filmed for 7 months.
Wow.
I mean, I got a lot to say about this. I don't know.
Yes, there's so much to say, and we'll get to it. I also want to clarify other things about this story. During the first day, I would wager that the brothers Warner, as it were, very much misled their contacts in the media. Or shall we say, they misled their sources, and then their sources were told to feed a certain narrative to the media. Because this story first broke in the New York Post, which is a very salacious and conservative-leaning publication. Nobody was believing it because it came from them. But the framing of the New York Post story is that this film was unbelievably bad. It was so bad it couldn't be released. And others followed suit, like The Wrap and John Campea. They were basically jumping on this and well, yeah, if it's bad, why release it? And unfortunately, this narrative kind of stuck in the first day, which, in retrospect, perhaps we shouldn't have been so willing to believe that, because bad movies get released all the time. And they're not canceled, especially when they're this far into production. A studio is never willing to basically lose that amount of money. Why do you think we don't have an answer yet on what's happening with The Flash?
Yeah, because they're not... It's so unbelievably fucked, but they also can't throw it away.
They can't, and we still have, by the way, no decision on that film yet. I want to also read some supporting evidence to back up what I just said about that. The whole thing about this film being bad was just a phony job from the beginning. Mm-hmm. So from Matthew Buck, to put to bed the idea that Batgirl was binned because bad test scores, which even if it was, it should still have the dignity to be released. Hollywood Reporter confirmed it tested about 60-ish, which is reasonable for a film of its type. By the way, Hollywood does test screenings for all of their films, their big films. So that's what, that's in reference to. It was not a dumpster fire. And even if it was, that is irrelevant. It should be released. And by all accounts, it was a perfectly all right film caught in a hideous situation entirely as the result of the new WB management and their cost cutting. And to also put into perspective, Batgirl tested in the 60s, and that is comparable to the first It film, which wound up grossing $700 million globally, as well as an early score for the upcoming Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Both of those films tested in the 60s. So, again, this idea that it was so bad that it couldn't be released does not seem to hold water when you put in this added context. Also, did you not watch Miss Marvel? Yeah, I know a lot of you didn't watch Miss Marvel, clearly from the ratings and what we've seen. But if you watch Miss Marvel, you should know that these creators, the writing and directing team, they were able to overcome Kevin Feige's worst tendencies and still produce a halfway decent story.
Yes.
Or the heartwarming characters and resonance behind it. Did it get bogged down by the Feige of it all? Of course, as it always will. But they still, I would say, produced... It's tied for me at the top with WandaVision as the best Disney Plus Marvel series. Maybe even the best Disney Plus series. Mm-hmm. And I think the potential of it could have been that much greater had Feige not gotten in their way. Also, again, these creators also produced a hit sensation with Bad Boys for Life at Sony. Mm-hmm. So these creators have the talent to make a Batgirl film work. The people who were involved, Michael Keaton, Brendan Fraser, Leslie Grace, were all so talented. This doesn't seem to hold up much water. So, and then also from The Hollywood Reporter. Either way, when a very early version of the film test screened, with temporary VFX and score, it landed a score in the low 60s, and it is believed to have only tested once. Film producers and executives have long noted that test screenings are best used to determine whether audiences are engaged or disengaged during certain parts of the film, not as a final judgment call on the movie. For example, horror films that end up doing well have known to test in the 60s. Batgirl's test score, which was for a director's cut, that is an important distinction because director's cut are the rough cuts, the first cuts that are much longer. Like, think of Taika Waititi's 4-hour cut of Thor: Love and Thunder that we will never see. Is comparable to sources for the first It and, of course, Shazam. Fear of the Gods. Warner's leadership under Zaslav feared it would not deliver the spectacle DC audiences were accustomed to. That is the word of the podcast. Spectacle, not just in this story, but then also spectacle when we talk about Jordan Peele's film. That is the word, and that is the key difference here. And the source goes on, at a certain point, a source notes, it doesn't make financial sense to spend $80 to $90 million on a streaming movie, as it won't necessarily attract more subscribers than, say, a $40 million movie. Going forward, a streaming film would be made for a more modest number. This is the key part. And if it's for theatrical, it better feel theatrical, notes a knowledgeable source. More to the point, Grace Randolph says her sources told her that Zaslav himself decided to shelve the film because he didn't feel it was up to snuff with what he wants DC to be. And what is that? To me, I feel people have wrongly misinterpreted it. It is not him saying it's bad. It's him. He's him saying he does not see the money. It is not theatrical enough. It is not big enough to be on the big screen. Mm-hmm. And that is not the same thing as saying it was bad.
Yeah. I know a lot of these people are like, my scooper said that it was terrible. I 100% guarantee you what actually happened was he saw an early version of the movie. He hated it. All of the scoopers heard that he hated it. And then they gave that to their YouTube counterparts that like, oh yeah, I heard that it was hated. I don't believe that it was as bad as they're saying. I 100%, I think it's the same way that you don't hear a peep out of studios until a movie bombs, and then all of a sudden there's stories about how the director was difficult to deal with. It's like, how convenient that we hear these stories about how difficult the director was to deal with until after the movie bombs or gets really bad reviewed and stuff like that. So I 100% think that it was, if it was guilty of anything, it was being a mid-budget film.
Which that was the intent, and people aren't clarifying it for, right? That was the intent behind this film. Again, as Peter has long been saying for months at this point, mid-budget films don't exist anymore in theaters. They go to streaming. Sure, this was a mid-budget film because it was intended to be on HBO Max. It was not going to be given the budget of a theatrical film because it wasn't intended to play in theaters. That's the thing that people are missing. Also, what the fuck is wrong with a mid-budget superhero movie?
Yeah.
You know what's a mid-budget superhero film? For those of you who love Joker out there, that's a mid-budget film. What about Logan? That's a mid-budget superhero film. Some of the best have been mid-budget superhero films.
And again, that just makes me feel like every superhero movie going forward from DC is going to have to be this giant, massive, world-ending... because I don't think Zaslav knows the first thing about movies. I think he's just a stupid piece of shit. And I think in his mind, big CG explosion special effects equals theatrical, good, mid-budget, doesn't look expensive enough, not enough explosions equals bad. That's what I think happened. Mm-hmm. And that
Zaslav has no background in movies. No, he has no background
zero.
in films. His background is 90 Day Fiancé.
Yeah, he knows trash. That's
reality TV.
Yeah, garbage. Believe me, I like 90 Day Fiancé. I can tell you, right, it is the most garbage reality show to have ever existed. It's kind of beautiful. But the man doesn't know movies. He knows garbage, right? So I like the idea that he would have any idea of what a quality film is. I don't believe it.
It's like thinking Logan Paul could like get the point of Nope.
Or just like anyone coming out of like a 5-star restaurant and being like, McDonald's is better. And it's like, I bet it is to you, maybe to me too. I don't know, but like, you're definitely not the person I would be looking to for that advice. Yeah.
I think a lot of what we're talking about here, once again, what's happening here, WB's full of shit. Zaslav's full of shit. That's what's going on. I feel from an optics standpoint, now granted, it could very well be they've yet to make a decision, but it is really embarrassing. First of all, to all of the talent, Leslie Grace, Michael Keaton, and of course the creators, that this film was canceled even after it was shot, and apparently it gives off the impression that it wasn't worth saving. What
did you see I think you sent it, the little in the today's meeting, because I think it sheds lights on this. The little graphic of how they viewed HBO Max content.
I was getting to that, but if you want to go ahead and mention
it, if you're getting to it, go ahead. But I think that fits perfectly in with why they canned Batgirl, girl to be specific.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving pieces that kind of make the whole thing make a lot of more sense, right? Well, look, I would say it's rather unfortunate and even more embarrassing to Leslie Grace that this was the first movie, because let's be clear about this. It wasn't just that this film was canceled. It was that it was very clearly the beginning of a lot more cancellations without regard as to what stage in development and or production they are in. And that sent chills down all of our spines because WB houses a lot of wonderful ongoing projects that at any moment, if Zaslav just doesn't want to do it, he's now shown precedent for just outright shelving projects. And that can pertain anything, including smaller shows like Peacemaker or Harley Quinn to the big movies like the Batman, Dune, or Godzilla. Let alone Harry Potter, whatever that's happening there. Like anything and everything is on the table, clearly, if he's going to drop the axe on that. And I believe today at the earnings call, it was made very clear that they're only just scratching the surface. And I interpreted that as get ready for some more cancellations coming down the road. That's how I interpreted that. But it's especially embarrassing, I would say, for all the talent involved in Batgirl, that was the first film canceled and not The Flash. Which, speaking of, do we now have a better idea of what inevitably is going to happen with that movie now because of what happened to Batgirl? Or are we still looking at a realistic possibility of this film getting some kind of play theatrically?
I think it'll play theatrically.
Wow.
But you didn't bring up what I had said.
Yes. So next, today at the earnings call, they released a graphic about the impending merger, another merger here, but they basically have two streaming services. Of course, HBO Max, which we're all well aware of, and then there's Discovery Plus, which houses all the reality trash. Well, they're going to combine those two into one streaming service coming sometime summer 2023. Both will cease to exist and just become one, to be clear about that. And the graphic that they released to, I believe, the people who were watching this presentation, I don't know, basically outlining in their view what they feel are the strengths of both Discovery Plus and HBO Max, and they frame it as unique and complementary. And I'll give you an example. This is what they say in their graphic. Where HBO Max skews male, Discovery Plus skews female. Where HBO Max skews scripted, Discovery Plus skews unscripted. Where HBO Max, you lean in Discovery Plus, you lean back. With HBO Max, it's appointment viewing, and then Discovery Plus is comfort viewing. And then HBO Max they label as the home of fandoms, and then Discovery Plus, the home of... Is it genre-doms?
Yeah, I'm gonna be real with you. I don't even know what the fuck that means.
I didn't know what that word was.
But
that's embarrassing. Oh my god.
Graphic's embarrassing because it tells me, it gives me a good idea of why maybe they wouldn't want a Batgirl movie released on their men's streaming service, right? If they view the content from HBO Max and specifically HBO as supposed to be bringing in the guys, I think it's pretty telling that the kind of content moving forward isn't going to be all that diverse in the kind of audiences that they try to bring in. I think in their minds, the diversity that they have is their reality shows, because women love reality shows, and that's how, quote unquote, women will be brought in. But as far as
which that in and of itself is a pretty outdated viewpoint.
Well, everything with HBO, it's the home of fandoms. So God, just so much of this shit makes me want to throw up. And you know what? I am very disappointed because, one, I really wanted to see that Batgirl movie, but I also really wanted to see that Superwoman movie. And I
Superwoman?
Supergirl.
Oh.
With the Supergirl that is supposed to star in The Flash, because following The Flash, she was supposed to take over as sort of the super in the universe, and then Batgirl would take over as the Bat in the universe. And I thought that would have been really unique and really fun and really cool, and the actresses are really great. And I was just really looking forward to...
And now that's not happening at all.
Everything's dead. I guarantee you, if anything, the first thing they announce... You know what? It's probably going to be a Superman movie. I think they're going to... Because they want to get people on their side. They want to be look at what we're doing. I think they're going to announce a Superman movie, a Batman movie, and then a Wonder Woman movie.
Well, if we're going to go to that part of the discussion, let's be extra clear here. So, from what we know, Shazam, Black Adam, Aquaman 2, they're still going to come out.
Yes.
They will make money. Mm-hmm. And then anything after that, who knows?
Who knows?
It literally is everything is on the table, including Batman 2, which is scary to think about. Really scary to think about. But today in the earnings call, David Zaslav says they are setting up a team at DC with a 10-year plan with a significant focus on quality. He notes Kevin Feige's Marvel Studios model as inspiration. The fucker used Kevin Feige's name. Look,
well, that's it right there.
The reason why I was so excited for DC was, well, they weren't Marvel. They were really trying to be more creative. They were focusing on standalone stories. And the universe thing didn't work out for them, so they kind of were forced to just do more creative shit. Now, that's not going to happen. To me, I don't mind necessarily it being a cinematic universe. I feel like what's happened with Marvel is they're a cinematic universe that repeatedly feels the need to impede on the quality of the individual projects. They don't they just refuse to allow any of the films to be films. And they feel more like TV episodes. And if that's the exact approach David Zaslav thinks, or that's the approach he wants to do, I'm not interested. I would be fine with the cinematic universe of like actual movies that are allowed to be movies.
I was getting good movies. I loved the Batman. I loved the Suicide Squad. I loved Shazam. Shazam 2 looked great. I was kind of looking forward to Black Adam. I was looking forward to Aquaman 2. I was looking forward to Batgirl. I hate cinematic universes. Good Lord. It's just, it's for me, it's just another example of like something cool and interesting and new happened in Hollywood. And then Hollywood does its thing where it learns all the wrong lessons.
Predictably so.
Yeah. And I've had like legitimately I've had it with what do you call it? Just movie universes. Like I can't think of a single instance in where it's like I want to see it anymore.
Yeah.
Like there's Marvel characters, yeah, I would like to see on the big screen, stuff like that. But I don't care about like the whole big thing. Like
I'm no longer invested.
I'm not invested. I'm just not. I'm not invested if it happened with DC. I'm not invested if it happened anywhere. Like I can't think of a single instance where I wouldn't just rather just focus on making a good fucking movie.
The 90 Day Fiancé cinematic universe?
That's different, okay? That is premier trash. The most delicious of trash.
Even SpongeBob has his own cinematic universe now.
Oh dear God, yeah. I'm over it. Like there's just nothing. There's nothing there anymore. It was an awesome little novelty. Like 26 movies, 10 years, stuck with it. It was great. It's even worked in other areas. I liked Godzilla vs. Kong. I guess you would call that a universe. But yeah, I'm just over it. Like I don't want it.
It's just, to me, what's even more distressing is that Warner Brothers is one of the last really great director-friendly studios.
Not anymore.
And basically.
Like,
and I feel like everything Zaslav wants to do is just basically be Disney 2.0.
Yeah, for sure. Because you could tell he's not a movie guy. He's not of this business. He doesn't care about it. He made trash reality shows for a living. Like that tells you everything you need to know about the guy. He's all about the Benjamins, and he's like, oh yeah, that Marvel thing makes all the money. Oh, well, let's just do that. Yeah, like I just want that. Just give me that. Oh, this isn't gonna contribute to that? Can it? Like I don't care. Now, of course, that works in reality show when there's no such thing as stars. In scripted and in Hollywood, you know, you need to create and maintain relationships with directors and writers and most importantly, actors, because your actors can sell your films, or at least you believe it to be so. And it's like, I'm Christopher Nolan, the one time you should be running your fucking mouth and you're silent, right? Like, this is where you should come in and be like, what the fuck? It's terrifying, the idea that you could spend years on this movie, just have it be finished, and then go like, we'd make more money just writing it off as taxes.
No, where are you, Christopher Nolan?
All these people that are like talk shit about protecting the cinema, now would be a good time to say something. Not all this crickets I'm hearing.
I think what I would imagine what's getting them a little bit conflicted is Zaslav is putting up a front that theatrical is their priority. Like, they want to have their movies in theaters, which on its face, it's nice. But when you consider what he really means, it's just a further homogeneity in the kind of movies that are released.
Yeah, because it's buying into this premise that only massive, humongous blockbusters should ever be released in theaters. That's even worse than where we were. Like, I love her. She's fucking crazy. But I'm so sick and tired of hearing Grace Randolph be like, oh, it's a streaming movie. Or, it's not worthy of the movie theaters because it wasn't this massive blockbuster. And da-da-da-da-da-da. Like, I just, right before now, I saw her review for Prey. And it's like, she wasn't that hot on it. And it's like, yeah, that's fine. Whatever. Like, I haven't even seen it. I have no stake in this game. But then when she starts saying, like, like, it shouldn't have been released in theaters because it's not. Basically, like, it's not big enough, not this big blockbuster enough to be released. Oh, so it's a mid-budget film that would have been in theaters 10 years ago. Yeah. And that's her whole thing. That is theatrical. That is, and it was theatrical. Yeah. God damn it. God. The idea that only massive blockbusters deserve to be in theaters, I hate it. I hate it so much. That's why I always cherish when we have the opportunity to see, like, not those kinds of movies in a movie theater. Yeah. Like, when she said it about Luca, that pissed me off. That this was a streaming movie, not a theater movie. Randolph, I'm talking about. Yeah. I have a question, though. So, she says here, Casey Bloys at HBO is taking over all scripted content and will decide what shows move forward. So, here, whatever service HBO Max and Discovery Plus merge into, here's what I'm not getting a clear sense of. Are they gonna continue with doing, like, scripted streaming shows? I think they will, but they won't. Which is to say, it's all going to be rolled into HBO proper. And the head of HBO proper can choose what they want to keep and what they want to throw by the wayside. And then, but like, eventually it's just, you basically are killing a whole division, right? Because you would have HBO Max originals and then HBO originals. You're killing a whole division, and that also includes a whole list of shows. Yeah, but also future shows, right? Because since it's just HBO and no longer HBO and HBO Max, HBO is going to continue on, having the shows that it's already had. And yada, yada, yada. And so, for instance, what happens to the Batman and Superman animated series that were announced? Exactly. What happens to the Penguin show that we've been hearing so much about? All of those were because HBO Max needed content. Now, there is no HBO Max. There is no HBO Max. What do you do? There is no war in Bossing. What do you do? Yeah, this is a disaster. It's a lose-lose. It's a lose for great streaming shows. It's a loss of a great streaming service. It's a lose-lose for great standalone comic book movies. It's a lose-lose for great blockbusters that look visually interesting, probably. It's also even a lose-lose for
creative and new original ideas in the form of movies. It really is a devastating loss. Like, honestly, I don't know if it's the same, if it feels this way to you, but it honestly feels like a repeat of what happened with Disney Fox, only this time Warner Brothers is just being completely absorbed by Discovery.
Yeah. It's the same thing. And it's just, this is why massive, big, late-stage capitalism, stupid-ass corporations suck. One company owning everything is shit. It's sort of like, like you say, like, well, is HBO Max going to stop, making films or stuff like that? It's kind of like, well, is Fox going to stop making films? Technically, no. But nowhere near the amount of, films and shit they used to, right?
No. I mean, they just had, you named Prey.
Yeah.
That qualifies as one. That's on Hulu and Hulu only. Hulu and Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. That could have been a theater. They could have given a theatrical play if they wanted to, but they chose not to.
And if Fox was still a thing, it would have been.
Mm-hmm.
I hate it. I hate it. And then that also adds on to what we had been talking before with, like, the special effects bullshit. If every movie is this massive green screen extravaganza, I mean, RIP all those VFX artists.
I guess the question for DC fans is, will it actually work this time? Will they get their TV show like they want with the MCU?
I'd say there's a good chance they do. I don't think it would take much to make them happy. I've seen what makes them clap.
Not impressed.
No.
Clearly. Are you concerned about Matt Reeves and the Batman?
Yes. We have yet to get a sequel announcement. What the fuck? And I guess even if there was one, that doesn't guarantee anything, does it? Apparently Zaslav did really like the Batman, as far as, like, these are the kind of movies he wants to be making, and I assume what he means is it made money along with Joker. So I think maybe you could definitely see a sequel, but he could just say, no, I just want the slate wiped clean, right? He could end up saying that.
Which would mean no more Jason Momoa. I guess that would.
He's going headstrong into production on Joker 2.
Right?
So maybe
that's the other thing.
That's not necessarily that much of a fear to be had. If anything, maybe it ensures that the Batman gets a bigger budget, because he's like, it's gotta look like a big movie to be in the movie theaters.
Since you mentioned it, do you feel any kind of way about Joker 2?
You know, I'm more interested in that than the original Joker.
Isn't that the same
it's
thing
the same, yeah.
with Rogue One and Black Panther?
Yeah. It'd be so funny if all three of those came out and we loved them and everyone else was like, not as good as the originals.
Which could happen.
But I'll tell you why. Hearing that a lot of it is a musical, okay. You're pulling me in. I heard it mostly takes place inside Arkham Asylum. I like that. And then Lady Gaga as, like, Harley Quinn, fucking hilarious. I love it.
And she can sing.
And well, yeah, I think that's the main reason why, like, the whole musical angle, like, you would guess that they're doing that. Yeah. I don't know.
My reservation would be Todd Phillips, though. Like, I don't think he's
Yeah, he just seems kind of, I don't know. Like, the original Joker film, to me, really is just sort of a much lesser aping of Scorsese.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sorry, but once you've seen Taxi Driver, it's like, okay, well,
or a King of Comedy.
Yeah, well, it definitely takes from that, but I think it mostly takes from Taxi Driver, where it's this like loser, lonely individual who's on a knife's edge, and by the end everything ends in violence and over the top, or this exploration of like this broken throwaway individual. Like I think it's so close to
Taxi Driver.
And Taxi Driver is just better in every way, and it's I just wasn't that engaged with Joker, but I can't think of any other Scorsese film that sounds like Joker 2. And then also just the name for it. What is it, like de Lira or some?
I couldn't pronounce it if I tried.
Oh God, I love it. It's so pretentious. That's awesome.
Who would have thunk it, man? A Joker sequel musical. I would be so much more excited if you had somebody like Baz Luhrmann direct this.
Oh yeah, that would be over the top. But like, that would basically be like Joel Schumacher's The Joker.
That's right.
Like, that's basically what it would be.
But what also makes me happy though? With we being excited, you and I being excited for Joker 2, it's an added enjoyment factor that a lot of like the bro fans of the first movie are pissed about it being a musical.
Oh yeah, I saw that. I saw a lot of people be like, "Sounds good. Now don't make it a musical." Like, they're pissed that it's a musical, and it's like, don't be a hater. Like, I don't know. Like, what's wrong with musicals?
It is pretty random though, right? I mean,
but that's
I don't think
what's so cool about it. It's about two crazy people. Like, let's get weird. I don't know.
Okay, enough of this. Let's get to something good. So we went to theaters and we saw Jordan Peele's latest film, Nope. Peter right now is on his phone pulling up the Letterboxd description for this wonderful, wonderful movie.
Okay, here we go. Nope. Directed by Jordan Peele. What's a bad miracle? Residents in a lonely gulch of inland California bear witness to an uncanny, chilling discovery. Very short and to the point. Starring Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer, Stephen Yeun, Brendan Pera, Michael Wincott, and of course, Keith David. Directed by Jordan Peele.
Written by Jordan Peele and somebody else.
Keegle, Mike, and Key.
No, that's not true. That wouldn't be true.
Yeah. So. Nope.
Yeah. Let me just be straight up. Mm-hmm. I am not happy with how certain people are seemingly looking to take Jordan Peele down a peg just 'cause. I feel that's rather destructive behavior. And in an era where original films of this caliber and this scale are being, first of all, even greenlit and then released in theaters is all too rare, I don't think it's at all productive to go after Jordan Peele as somehow he's peaked early or he had too great of a first film. I mean, look, everybody is entitled to their opinion and to feel the way they do. I want to clarify that for my money, though. I am so enamored with this filmmaker, especially much more now after seeing Nope. Because in my view, he is 3 for 3. I think he is just telling some incredible stories and presenting them in ways that I feel are unforgettable. Not only do I agree with the masses that Get Out was a masterpiece and that he was well deserving of his Academy Award win for writing Get Out, but I would also say Us was a great follow-up. I think Us, genuinely speaking, is a great movie. To me, Us is excellent in its execution of creepiness and making you feel unsettled. And Lupita Nyong'o gave an outstanding performance in that movie as well. But I would also say that with this film, it really has cemented for me that he is a voice that's quite frankly here to stay, has a lot to say, and contrary to some who feel he's not really coherently expressing his points of view or his thoughts in his films, I think he is. And I, for one, am very interested in anything he has to say going forward. Terrific filmmaker. And that's kind of where I'm at. I know, I feel in some ways I'm in the minority, but that's just me. And as far as this film is concerned, no question, no exception. I thought this was so freaking good to the point of there were so many aspects of the film that I feel are memorable, but it, for one, did give me a memorable theatrical experience. And I think not only is it one of the best films of the year, in some ways it does remind me of like a Jaws or like a Close Encounters. The original blockbusters back in the day that captured audiences with just the pure spectacle of it is. For however much commentary the film has to offer about spectacle, as I mentioned before, the film in and of itself is enraptured and showcases spectacle, the kind that I would want, that I would think most audiences would really like and consider to be worthwhile. To me, the film was outstanding, and just to be further clear as to how the film was received by audiences and critics only, the critic Rotten Tomatoes score, only 81% of critics give it a positive review, which is lower than how they usually award. Again, pair that up with Marvel movies and see how that compares. And then only 69% of audiences liked the film, and it received a B cinema score, which anything below an A- is not necessarily glowing from the general audience perspective if you're given a B.
Yeah. But
for a horror film, we'll see. And again, some people don't necessarily consider it a horror film. They consider more of a psychological thriller. It inhabits a lot of genres. It has a lot of things going for it. But the performances by Daniel Kaluuya and Keke Palmer particularly were sensational. I, in my second viewing especially, have just been so blown away by Kaluuya's acting ability. I don't think he has much to say in this movie as far as dialogue is concerned, but he has a lot to say, and I think this is the mark of a truly gifted actor. He doesn't have to say a single line of dialogue to communicate exactly what he's thinking or what he's feeling. Because in a lot of the scenes, when he's paired up with Keke Palmer, who is basically all, dialogue and all bravado, just a look in his eyes sometimes perfectly communicates what he's thinking and what he's feeling. And I don't think Daniel Kaluuya is getting enough appreciation for his performance in this film. As well as Keke Palmer, who, by the way, yes, she steals the show. She's meant to be the character that's, vociferous and in your face, and she's perfect, and she's outstanding. But she also nails the dramatic aspects as well. And genuinely speaking, in a way that kind of catches you by surprise, you do care about these two characters by the time it reaches the end and the climax, and by the time it all goes down. Wonderful use of production design. The idea that Jordan Peele, and this is where it kind of reminds me of Jaws, was basically used the open valley as his ocean, as the ocean was used in Jaws, and that there is a menace in the film that inhabits the sky. The sky here is kind of the new ocean. And as you see in the trailers, they do look up at the sky a lot. They look up at a lot of clouds, particularly. And I feel successfully Jordan Peele does for clouds what Steven Spielberg did for sharks with Jaws in this movie. So I thought the score was chilling as well as kind of westerny when it comes to certain aspects of it. And truly, and I think this is the highest compliment, some of the most horrifying and unsettling shit I've seen in a movie in maybe ever. From a number of perspectives. Home run for me. I loved it. Peter.
I loved Nope. I thought it was fantastic. It might be my favorite Jordan Peele film.
I'm glad I'm not alone in thinking that.
Yeah.
I think I'm leaning in that direction, and I know that's kind of like what
sacrilegious.
Yes, to say, but I'm leaning in. That's the movie that's I'm thinking of a lot. As a matter of fact, it's been 2 weeks since I've first seen it, and I still find myself thinking about it. Sometimes in not a good way, because then I get myself scared and paranoid. But that, I think, is the mark of a true film.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's just so much to think about and say about with the film. I think it's so finely crafted. I think it's so entertaining. I think it's such a tight, well done piece of art, not content. It's like you said, it's a throwback to the original blockbuster in a lot of ways. And yeah, by the end of it, it just stuck with me in such a big way. And like you said, just been thinking about it. Just little things here and there that I would notice and go like, oh my God, yeah, this is, yeah, like there's little, I have I only wrote down a couple of them. Let me see if I could pull up just a few, just to throw out there. Can we do spoilers?
Yes, I was about to mention that. At this point, I feel those of you who are listening have got a pretty good taste of how we feel. So from this point going forward, the whole thing will be ruined for you. Just so you know.
The movie, I think, is obviously about, and to be fair, I already thought it was, but then I saw an interview with Mr. Peele himself, and he's pretty open about his films. And he talked about, like, yeah, like, to me, I wanted to make a big spectacle film. But in doing so, I started to think about, like, a lot of the downsides to spectacle, and it's sort of our dark relationship with it. You know, the way that, you know, maybe there's a horrible accident on the side of the road where people are dead. And what do? You know, we slow down to watch, you know, and sort of that sort of our sort of perverse relationship with spectacle and the way we're drawn to it, try to monetize it, sometimes leads to our doom. So he sort of made a big spectacle movie about the downsides of it. And there's just little things here and there that sort of speak to that overall theme that the first time I was like, oh yeah. But then on thinking about it, it's like, oh yeah. Like one of the main characters, OJ. At first it's like, oh, that's kind of a funny gag. But it's very specific because the OJ Simpson case is a perfect example of what...
Yes.
Jordan Peele is sort of trying to say with this film, the O.J. Simpson's case, where it's literally about a guy who murdered his wife, but the entire country was enthralled and obsessed with it and couldn't look away, and it was
the new hot show.
Yes, the newest hot show was about a man who murdered his wife in real life. Right. And
we hardly ever come to grasp with that, right? Mm-hmm. We don't like to criticize ourselves, but what you just described is, yeah, for most people, a lot of people took so much out of that trial, but it was really just an excuse to have a great TV show. It was treated as a TV show.
Yeah, for sure.
More so than it was like real life.
Yeah, people don't care about justice. They didn't care about any of that. What they cared about was how entertaining it is. On top of that, it takes place in Hollywood. Hollywood, the number one known exploiter of tragedy.
Yep.
So the fact that it's centered in Hollywood, I think it's sort of screaming about its central theme. Another thing that, just thinking back about it, the fact that with the said UFO, if you do not look at the UFO, it doesn't harm you. Whereas if you look at the UFO, it'll gobble you up. And I think that's a little bit like if you are that person that slows down and watches as people are dying on the side of the road because it's entertaining, right? Like, that's the kind of person that this monster kills. And if you don't sort of look at the spectacle, it doesn't eat you up. And I don't know, I just kind of started seeing those connections and the way they were drawn to each other.
Makes sense to me.
And then, of course, the one that everyone's talking about, which is Gordy, and how Gordy fits in. And it's funny, I had so many ideas in my head before the big reveal, because I was like, well, Gordy has to play into this in a big way. I was like, this was my thought. I was like,
okay, yeah.
At some point did they send Gordy into space? How they send monkeys into space sometimes?
Right.
And then
oh God. Did you think Gordy was somehow connected to the creature?
Yes.
Oh wow.
Because at that point I didn't think it was a creature. I thought it was a ship.
Right.
With said residents inside. But it's such a that right there. That's another thing I just respect. It's such a neat little twist. About on the sort of the UFO alien classic
it's not
tale.
It ain't just a good twist. It's a really inventive one at that.
Yes.
It turns out it ain't a flying saucer filled with little green men. That was all a ruse and a great subversion of expectations. It ends up just being an extraterrestrial animal.
It's just shaped like that. And the way that it hunts people is it sucks them up. It kind of reminded me of an air jellyfish. In the way it sort of looked and moved, especially in that third act, where it's almost like moving tapestry or whatever. And by the way, the design, incredible.
Yeah.
The effects, incredible. Boy, did they crunch. But no. It does. It looks fantastic, and there's little. You could just tell there's so much thought put into all of this. But yeah, the way that Gordy. So I thought is Gordy the alien? Did something happen? I don't know, right? But then when it's well, no, that whole subplot is more about how it thematically ties in than anything else. I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. Because again, movies just don't do that anymore, right? People get pissed off when it's should I do it? Should I bring it up?
Let's do it.
The Last Jedi. But people are so mad when they're the plan didn't even work. And it's this whole thing, and it's sure, but it's a movie. Heroes can fail. It's not always about things succeeding, but it's it could be about the journey and sort of the overall thematic. What are you gaining out of the scene besides just plot points, right? Try to view the film as more than just basic plot points. And again, if you're just consuming the film as just basic plot points, yeah, I can see how structurally all of a sudden it's well, what the fuck? this just dropped off the face of the earth. Well, flew up off the face of the earth. This whole thing with Steven Yeun's character and Gordy and all of that. But if you try to take in the film as, again, a piece of art and not just a collection of plot points, you open yourself up to it more, I mean, it worked for me.
I mean, this is ultimately why, for those of you who are not aware about like thematic ties, this is like one of the things that we were discussing when it came to WandaVision. And if you recall, we had issues when we said that, you know, Agatha and Monica could be tied in thematically. The reason why we want that is because it makes the story itself richer. It makes the point that gets made across that much better than it already was. It gives a purpose for every single character, instead of just like being there for the sake of being there, you know? That's ultimately why, you know, we want that, as well as with Thor: Love and Thunder. Look, the themes I think are so, I would say, pretty blatant and put out there, but for a lot of people it just wasn't all that clear. But yeah, the legend of Love and Thunder, and, you know, Thor finding his love, he finally got it. And I'll give you one example that I think a lot of people missed about, and maybe you claim, so I know you don't care, but you claim you saw the last episode of S.H.I.E.L.D., right?
Skimmed.
Yeah, sure. So you might have missed this. So this is a brilliant example of like themes being tied in. Mm-hmm. Who is Melinda May? She's the warrior with a heart of ice, right? That's kind of her thing. Like
Stone cold bitch.
Stone cold bitch, basically. Mm-hmm. Well, what happens to her in the last season?
Dies.
She crosses a dimension. She crossed back through a dimension and gained empathic abilities.
Oh my god.
This is a character who now is forced to feel the emotions of all of those who are around her. Mm-hmm. And in the final falling action, or the climax, shall we say, of the series finale, she basically uses her empathic abilities combined with an Inhuman's powers that broadcasts anything you want, mm-hmm. even her empathic abilities, to give robots emotions to stop the killing. Mm. That is basically the themes of this character and the whole series, basically the whole mantra of this series being brought back around.
See, you lost me. You said a word in there, Inhumans? What's that?
They're like mutants, Peter.
Oh, I know mutants. Yeah.
They're like mutants. Okay, they're basically the replacement to what these Inhumans are.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, but in the show, there was this character who was, let's just say, a mutant, mm-hmm. right? And she had the ability to
broadcast shit.
Yeah, a signal out. And so, to all of the Chronicoms at the same time, and they used May's ability to give them emotions. Hmm. And stop the fighting, and stop the killing, and lay down their weapons. That was how Melinda May achieved victory, not by punching some person, as she usually did for mm-hmm. most of the show. So, that's also arc progression. But that's also an example of things like you don't see much of in these big stories anymore.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the other thing that kind of got me mad about, like, the whole, like, we're gonna do it the Kevin Feige way, and everything has to be a big spectacle, and da-da-da-da-da. Because what usually happens, I don't know, to me, when people talk that way, like, it's just, it's what Scorsese said, like, okay, well, it's a ride, right? Not a movie, but a ride. Mm-hmm. And I don't hate rides. I love rides. I go to theme parks. They're fun. But I like movies more. and what initially pulled me to superheroes and superhero films is their capability to connect on a human level, right? Mm-hmm.
In your view, what are the films in the entire repertoire of the MCU that do this the best?
Say, I feel like I'm just gonna name my favorite ones.
Well, go ahead.
Top 5. The Guardians films for sure. I would say Iron Man. The first one. Let me think.
Talking about themes, I would put out, I know to an extent it falters for you, but I would put out Winter Soldier and Eternals.
No, yeah, for sure. They, in the case of Eternals, it definitely tries.
It does.
And in the case of Winter Soldier, I think it succeeds a lot. It's just, yeah. Other than that,
Thor: Love and Thunder, we mentioned.
Oh yeah, Thor: Love and Thunder. Like there's ones that I really like, right? But I like it because it's
like Avengers and Infinity War. It's a different thing altogether.
The spectacle movie, right?
Yeah.
Because like I said, there's nothing wrong with a good old spectacle film that's all about, little razzle dazzle. And I think the original Avengers and Avengers Infinity War are like the best examples of that, where it's just fun getting them together, and it's just this big.
They're
adventure.
Literal comic books.
Yeah, like big crossover comic shenanigans. Awesome. But I don't know. But again, because of that, I don't know if it's like deeply like human in the way it's like touching you and stuff like that. I think
our first Avenger.
Yeah, I would say
First
that's
Avenger.
another one.
People forget about that movie. It's a great film.
I would even say, even though the movie's not, it's okay. Like it's not crazy. Thor? I would say the first Thor.
Yeah.
It attempts to do that, but I think like all in all, the Guardians films are pretty far ahead.
Oh yeah,
I think everything else,
because they're allowed to be their own thing for the most part.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like even it sucks that I can't even say the Spider-Man films. Oh
yeah, not them, not those Spider-Man movies.
Yeah, because they're just fine. They're fine.
They're not so much movies as they are episodes of the MCU TV series.
Yeah.
That happened to feature Spider-Man.
And like they, save for the last one, which is so funny to me because that's the one that's the most like corporate TM. And that's the one where they try to be a Spider-Man movie. But like,
I mean, it's a Spider-Man special, basically. For all
it feels like it. Like it's just kind of a big Spider-Man celebration. Which again, to me, kind of feels like, okay, well then we're kind of back to more of the Infinity War original Avengers category than like anything else. But yeah. What were we talking? We were talking about Nope, weren't we?
Yeah, because you were saying how like Nope was able to tie in all the aspects.
Oh,
the
yeah,
Gordy aspect of it being thematic.
Yeah.
You're so used to films tying in things literally into the like the movie instead of thematically.
It was like the OJ thing, right?
Yeah.
No one ever points anything out.
No.
Right? It's just sort of a slight gag in the beginning, but by the end of the movie and you think back on it, it's like, oh yeah, like there's a connection there. Okay. And then the same thing with a lot of what was going on within the film. Again, I thought it was pretty explicit, but by the time everyone's getting sucked up and we find out that it's actually more of like an animal, it's like, oh,
yeah.
Okay, I get what the whole stuff with Gordy and sort of, it's this massive tragedy within Steven.
I didn't get it at first. I gotta like be real with you.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get the whole connection between Gordy and the creature until after the fact. I had to be like one of those idiots. I had to like go and look up reviews to kind of be told like what this was supposed to mean. Yeah, no, not that one.
Oh, okay.
I hate those videos.
I hate them.
I look up reviews, not actual like ending explained. Fuck that.
I'll see them sometimes. I just think I like to see the ones just because it's so funny, where it's like the ending needs zero explanation, right? Because sometimes movies are confusing, and it's like, okay, well, what's your opinion? Like, what do you think's going on here? So it's like, okay, I'll see that, but then it's like the end of, I don't know, like name a fucking movie, Encanto, right? Like ending explained, what happened, and it's like,
what do you mean? What happened? You saw the movie, right?
Yeah. Unless you didn't see the what happened with the candle? It's like, you know what happened with the candle. They literally look you in the face and tell you what happened with the candle. Oh my god.
I didn't even honestly, and I didn't see a lot of the stuff with Gordy until like I saw Grace Randolph's review actually.
She did a great review.
That may have been the best review I've ever seen her give.
Yeah. No.
This is why she's always such a wild card.
Yeah. I love her.
You never know what she's going to say.
Yeah.
Like I've oftentimes I disagree with her vehemently on like movies, just like straight up on like how they should be made and also like how good or not they are. But this is one of those where I'm like, what the fuck happened? We agree completely.
Yeah, no. That's why I love her reviews, because you never know what her opinion's gonna be. You will never know until you see the review, because it's just so inconsistent, but in a genuinely entertaining way. But yeah, no, that I think that's it's so, the movie itself so well done, the way it ties everything together, but then also just on a visceral level, it's just so thrilling, right?
Yeah.
Like everything from the point up, especially when they basically figure out what's happening, like the halfway point to the end, like that's some edge of your seat shit. Especially that big third act, like it felt huge, right? The when like Daniel Kaluuya's OJ is literally like galloping away, and like just the massive like
that's the money shot of the film, and I would also say that's what that's the Oprah shot. Yeah, the Oprah shot, literally, and why you should see this in the theater.
Oh God, yeah, it's so good, and stuff like sound design.
Oh
right?
My God.
Like, and that's another thing the movie does so well too, is that it's so fucked up and terrifying.
It is, man. It's really fucked up.
A lot of the stuff it shows, but there's no catharsis of violence. There's no real like violence in the film, right? A lot of it is implied. Like the whole, it doesn't give you, if the viewer is that person slowing down on the side of the road to get a glimpse at the accident, it doesn't show you the accident, right?
No.
Like with the whole Gordy thing,
yeah.
I could almost feel myself trying to peek around corners to see what was happening, right?
Yeah.
But they don't show you what happens.
No, they don't show you, man. We should really, like, there's a lot to compliment about the film. But look, the production design of that set, the complete like aura of terror, of like people running for their lives was still left over. Just the imagery of the Gordy chimp beating the shit out of one of the co-stars is so unbelievably unsettling and frightening. Like when I see people say it's not scary, I don't know what they're talking about, because that was legit scary. And when you see like young Steven Yeun or what's the character's name? Jupiter. I mean, Jupiter's.
No, that's
Jupiter's. That's the name of the.
I think that's the name of his character as a kid. Ricky Jupe Park.
So Ricky, to see him hiding under a table while everybody had already evacuated, and Gordy the chimp is still just going apeshit, literally. And then when the chimp sees he's under the table, oh my God!
And it's like from a first person POV, and it's like he's slowly coming towards you. I was like, oh my, like it's so well done. It's so.
I'm shaking just thinking about it because it's so scary.
Yeah,
it really is. Oh my God. And then, but okay, so what, not explain to me, but what do you think actually happens here? Do you think like the monkey is giving him a false sense of security when he like, because in the Gordy's,
I think that's,
he calmed down by that point, right?
He just calmed down and he's like, oh, this is my friend, and we do the bump, and that's the
so
thing.
What happened was he was set off by the balloon.
Well, you see with
popping?
You see with animals, you see with dogs, right? Yeah. They'll be your best friend, and then maybe something happens, and then they freak out, and they
go berserk, basically.
And then the next second, they're like going up to you, like, "What's wrong?" You know, like I want a treat or something, and it's like that's just animals. The idea that you could tame these animals is insane. But of course, he learns that the hard way.
And the way that was handled too is like, I guess it gives Ricky the idea that he was spared by him because he had some kind of like inherent know-how as to how to like tame the beast, as they say. And I love the shot of unfortunately of course they had to assassinate the monkey after what happened. Mm-hmm. But the security came in, they shot him, and then of course the blood split on Ricky. Mm-hmm. Great scene. Yeah. And by the way, this is all out of sequence. Like they give you a little tease in the beginning, and they don't show you until like toward a big moment in the movie.
Well, I think that's why initially I was like, okay, the monkey's tied directly into the aliens, because the first shot of the movie is Gordy.
Yeah, basically beating the shit out of him.
But then by the time you reach the end of the movie, you realize, well, no, it's not that it ties directly. It's that Gordy is the sort of the mission statement of this film. Sort of thing. That's why that's what you're greeted with at the beginning.
Because basically how that's tied in thematically is that Ricky takes in that experience is that I survived this, and therefore I can continue to basically exploit the spectacle for my own gain.
You know what? I do have a criticism of this movie, now that I think about it.
Okay.
I kind of feel like the ending is too happy, too positive.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because for me, the fact that the two characters, despite knowing full well what they're in for and how in over their heads they are, still choose to go after the money shot for the money and for and I kind of feel like
it's having its cake and eating it too.
Yes,
with these characters.
I think to fully go in with the
because it kind of suggests that they're no better than Steven Yeun.
No, they're not.
What he was trying to do, because they're going after this.
They even have that thing of the kid that installed all the cameras, right? And
Angel, I think.
Angel, yeah, his name's Angel, and he's like, at least we know we're doing something good, right? Like we're saving humanity and stuff. And then the rest of them were like, sure. Saving humanity. It's an alien movie, but it's not about saving humanity. It's about trying to make that dough, trying to make that cash.
See, from that scene, that was definitely, but I also took more of it from like, yeah, sure, but we just want to kill this thing because it's like been killing us.
No, I took from it that they had like,
I think what you're saying is there too. It's there too. Okay. I'm not saying that it's not there.
I don't think they ever planned to kill it.
Maybe you're right. Yeah, maybe it's true.
I felt like they were done after they got, the Oprah shot, but then the fucking cinematographer is like,
well, that was a whole different thing.
He fucked it up, and then
did he though?
Yes. Fucked it up completely. They're lucky they all came back.
He fucked up from what they were trying to do. Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like we went off track completely where we were. So the thing with Steven Yeun is he takes from his survival with Gordy somehow that he could tame an extraterrestrial creature
and monetize it.
And the unbelievable stupidity of that man to think he could do that while basically gathering everybody he knows, including his wife and 3 small children, and he basically led them all to the slaughter, quite literally. That sequence where the creature's just like, okay, you're not giving me the horse, I'll just come to you. And he sucked all of them up. Really horrific. And it when I first saw it, I was like, I was still under the guise of like, what's going on here? So like, where are they? Again, it took me a bit to think, oh wait, so no, this is a creature and it ate them and they're now in a digestive system.
Yes.
And the thing
when that dawns on you, it's like, oh my God.
That's horrific and unsettling all at the same time. And I noticed it more so in the second screening with you. The look of terror and I think also even tears in Ricky's face as he realized what's about to happen. and he knows he just basically doomed all these people and what's coming for them.
He's about to get attacked by Gordy.
Basically, like the bill comes due, as Mordo would say in Doctor Strange. Although the tank was next to him, he should have just ran into it, and he probably would have survived.
Yeah, but it's a shock moment.
It's the shock, basically, and then of course what ends up happening, which you don't see, but and then this is where the real terror comes in. So they get scooped up basically by this creature, and throughout the movie, when you hear the thing moving, you also hear this like really eerie, kind of in the distance, hollow of like sound of screams, but you don't really know where it's coming from. But then all of a sudden it clicks. As this thing continues to move, those screams are coming from the people that it ate, who are being digested.
Yeah. That's terrifying. It's terrible.
Like they're just sitting there dying.
Being slowly like...
And then there was in the moment where it's hovering over the house, and then this is where it kind of reminded me of like Midnight Mass, where you know how it ends where they're all singing and then the sun comes out and then they all just basically explode, they combust. With all that wondrous like joyous singing, and then it's just being silenced at once. There's a scene in here where it's hovering over the house and the screams are getting louder and louder. And then all of a sudden, complete silence. And then what happens next is it poops them out. So like, I guess in my imagination, they were all just incinerated at once.
They were basically just heavily digested, just, and then
after being digested for hours, slowly, then came the final thing.
And then that's where you get the answer of how their dad died. Because that's another thing. That's another mystery you're left with in the beginning. Like, what the fuck? Like why a quarter?
Yeah.
And then here it's like, oh, they spit out when that thing eats people and horses, it spits out all the stuff that it doesn't digest. All the non-tissue stuff. Like their keys and their stuff. And
of course, to say nothing of how this thing hides in the clouds. Let me just before we get to what I'm not going to leave it alone. We're going to get back to what you were mentioning about the thematic issue or what the characters.
Oh, yeah.
But this movie has done quite a number on me personally. With that, what we just mentioned, when we walked out of the theater, I wanted to get some popcorn for the road. And as I was about to hand the cashier the money, something really startled me, and my whole body was just turning around immediately, just frightened, because I heard screaming in the distance. And it was just the carousel that's next to the theater, and just the sound of kids playing. And to think that movie made me think that was just be that hyper aware of screams. And it sounded no different, honestly, to me than what it sounded like in the movie. It's very unsettling. Also, when I went to Comic-Con, I had to, of course, drive through San Diego. And a lot of the terrain reminded me of basically the set of Nope. And also the clouds that were in the sky. And don't think I didn't look at those clouds just on the way up there. And then also... there was a moment at night when I'm walking back to my room and I flicked the lights off, and in the back of my mind I'm just hoping nothing behind me turns the lights back on, because there's a scene in this movie that quite literally I think almost made me want to run away from the movie itself. It's early on, but it's a fake out sequence where he actually makes you think there are alien beings in the shed about to confront OJ. And that scene, oh my God, people were screaming, oh hell no, in my screening when that happens. Nope. That shit was terrifying. It was so scary. And it's oh my God, this is so good. On just a pure spectacle level, for that to be sticking with me, I think is a mark of a great movie.
Yeah.
For me. And you yourself are getting a bit antsy in that alien scene.
Because fuck that, no.
Because he like the way he films it, it's like, oh shit, this is going down now. And these are creatures from another planet, and the way that they look at him, how they slowly like walk in and lean in, and when another one pops out and they kind of like synchronize in their movement.
But it pops out and it's like closer to him because it pops out like the side door. I was like, oh no.
It's so good.
You know what? That's at the point where I think I should have known, and I think I had a suspicion. It's like, okay, it's not going to be your typical just aliens, right? Because this is him kind of telling you
it ain't that kind of movie.
It's not that movie, yeah, and having fun with it while he tells you that. It's a really good. This movie's really good at playing on your expectations, I think.
Yeah. Seriously, my audience,
aliens, UFOs, so it's like, okay.
My audience was so glued into this movie. You could hear a pin drop. Like you could feel the tension and the anxiety as the film played out. It was so good. To what you were saying about OJ and then also Keke Palmer. Not that I feel like I see what's in there that kind of qualifies why they are perceived as being better than Ricky, but I understand why it wouldn't work. I can kind of see it, and in my mind it works right now, but I'm curious to see how it would go. It would work going forward. But yes.
You know what I think would work?
Well, I was going to say, okay, go ahead.
Okay, this is what I think would work. They get their money shot. They get their Oprah shot. But they end up getting eaten anyway. But they are post-memorialized as like they're the family that they got the evidence of alien life, and maybe you even have Oprah talking about it, and then you end with their ranch that being turned into an attraction. Because that was the place where they got the first alien, what do you call it? Evidence of alien life, right? And it's kind of like this ironic, like they got all the fame and fortune they wanted, and none of it goes to the.
Let me tell you something. That works really well as an ending. But you know me, I hardly
you like the happy ending.
That feels particularly mean spirited. That ending, yes. I mean, it works really well, but I don't know if I would pick that over the triumph of them like being able to succeed in here. Here's the thing, what I gather, what the point of it is a lot of what is tied into these characters is the idea that from the very conception of film, their family was erased from the success of it. And the whole point, I think Jordan Peele's intent behind this whole them wanting to chase the exploitation and the spectacle was to get that back. To basically set right a wrong that was made in the first place. And that them getting the first photographic evidence of extraterrestrial life would restore what that family should have received all those generations ago. That's what I feel was there. And
I don't disagree. It's definitely it's very much there.
The question is, does it work ultimately?
I guess it just I kind of feel it clashes a little with the overall.
I mean, no, I think you're right. Yeah, it can.
But God, that was a hell of an ending. I love the design. So much thought was put into like its final. You could tell that's like its predator mode of like, kind of like when a peacock flares up its feathers, or like a cat raises its back, like it's sort of like bolstering itself to be like back off, which tells you at that point it viewed them as a threat.
Yeah,
which is funny. They went from being prey to like a legitimate threat, and I even like how it has like that green, like that shutter, like because you see that in animals that they'll like flash things as like a warning sign,
like fuck off, basically.
Yeah, basically that, like get the fuck away, back off. And then also, yeah, people also pointed out how it looks like a camera flutter flash, you know?
Yeah.
It's like perfect, you know, the way it sort of ties in. Or how when you look up at the alien, it's like an eye watching you and stuff. There's a lot of little, like, that's what I'm saying though. There's so many little things like that I think add into the overall experience that I really dug.
I agree. Let me ask, what have you made of the criticisms that have been lodged against Nope, and how would you respond to them? Like, what are the ones that stick out to you?
It's okay. Well, the biggest one is like the Gordy one, right? Where which I think we already talked about, and why it works for us. Mm-hmm. The other stuff is that I guess it's kind of slow. I think some people said it was slow or boring. Well,
again, general audience speak. If they say slow, they're bored, and that's bad.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Again, I honestly don't know what I can even respond to that, because I was just entertained throughout the entire thing. I was with it. I was cool with it. I was all in. Yeah. And then other than that, I honestly don't know what the criticisms are, because those were the two big ones. Mm-hmm. Because I did see a few reviews of people that weren't crazy about it, and a lot of it always came down to feeling a certain type of way about the sort of Gordy reveal.
What I noticed also from the Double Toasted people and the Breakfast All Day people was that they liked a lot of the ideas, but they felt ultimately it didn't come together into being a cohesive piece. Like, they still feel a bit that the film was muddled in its messaging.
Well, I did tell you one way that I felt that maybe I do feel somewhat similar to them with that ending. But overall, like, I guess for me, you know, the positives far outweigh any sort of muddling that happens at the end. At least for me. Yeah. I've still only seen it once, so I don't know. But yeah, it's I
thought it was pretty hilarious though. Dan Murrell did a pretty great, like,
from Geeks and Gamers.
No, Dan Murrell from the Dan Murrell YouTube channel. He was formerly a Fandom and Screen Junkies.
Yeah, then he made Geeks and Gamers.
No, he didn't. He had a great takedown of Logan Paul, because Logan Paul went on this, like, Twitter rant against this movie, basically not really understanding what the point of it was. And then Dan Murrell was like, well, Logan Paul was exactly the kind of person this movie was critiquing, and the fact that Logan Paul couldn't pick up on it is indicative of its success in that department.
Yeah.
Because Logan Paul, let me be real, Logan Paul is one of the most, like, horrendous individuals out there, because what is he known for? Just capitalizing on shock and awe and horror and awe, and, like, him just doing outlandish things for the sake of outlandish things. And I have to tell you, it really bugs me that we live in a society where that kind of, like, just think of how much Logan Paul has been rewarded for him being the person he is. Like, all the money he's made and all the things, like, he's latching himself into. And I don't get it. And I don't get that that's the kind of person that our society, like, values and cherishes, while we so callously throw away so many other better human beings. Yeah.
Because he's an American treasure.
Are you a Logan Paul stan?
I'm a Jake Pauler. Sorry.
I mean, I do hear he's better than Logan.
I hear the opposite.
Oh, really? Wait, better as in, like, what do you mean by better?
I don't know. What do you mean?
A better human being?
Yeah, that.
Oh.
Your face.
I don't know what you mean. Okay, whatever. I feel bad that no one's talking about this movie anymore.
A lot of things just kind of got in the way of the discussion. It was Comic-Con, and then
this
HBO.
Zaslav thing.
Yeah. That whole stuff. It sucks because it's so funny. Like, this is the only thing that kind of pops in my mind now is Al Pacino from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. What a picture! Like,
but I mean,
that stuff.
I've been that meme, I think, several times this year. With Nope, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Batman, Top Gun Maverick, RRR. I feel those are the best movies of the year.
Oh yeah, for sure. And yeah, it's I think Get Out is still Jordan Peele's most like
celebrated movie for sure.
Oh yeah, celebrated for sure. But it's most
impactful,
well put together film, I guess, from like writing and the story structure.
It's basically flawless.
Thematically, it's pretty flawless. Nope. I'm sorry. His titles confuse the shit out of me. I gotta run through all of them before I get to the right ones. Nope is certainly a little bit more messier, but I think it might be my favorite. I really do.
Messy doesn't need to be bad.
Yeah, it's not. It's far from the worst thing. If anything, it can sometimes help a movie.
Yeah. All right, I think we're done, right? Anything else to say?
No, I think we did a good job covering most of the stuff.
Yeah, considering.
Yeah. We end on a good note with a good movie.
All right. Next time, I'm not sure what we're covering next time. Maybe we'll talk about Prey or what else happens. Anyway, thank you all for listening so much, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.